Future Selves and Future Changes, and I did it for Developmental Psychology with Dr. Frank Waluski. Okay, so my presentation is about how certain parts of Levinson's developmental theory affect your chances of success in Erikson's 7th stage. I found some unexpected but helpful results that may help people become successful during their middle ages, which is the 7th stage. So Erikson's Psychosocial Stages is a lifelong developmental theory. It's broken up into 8 different stages, from infant until older adult. And the basic formula for how they work is that you have a thing you have to reconcile within yourself or in your life, and if you're successful, you get a good trait, and if you're not successful, you get a bad trait. So for instance, in the infant stage, if you gotta learn to trust people, and if you're successful, you gain the skill of basic trust, and if you're not, you get basic mistrust. So that's kind of the format we're working with here. And I focused on the middle age stage, which is generativity versus stagnation. Generativity is the successful aspect that you get if you do well on the stage. And it's kind of characterized as making your mark, or like feeling like you did well with your life, or made a difference in your community. And if you're not successful, you don't feel like you made your mark, and that's stagnation. And we were studying this in class, and I thought this was the coolest thing ever. I thought this was really awesome. I thought he did a really great job of laying everything out of how it all works, and I agreed with everything he said. However, I was looking forward to what he was going to tell us to do to help people in each stage. I was looking forward to the advice for what should we do to infants to make them be trustful? What should we do to adolescents to help them have a stronger sense of identity? Give me some advice here. But there wasn't anything. So I found another theory. That's Levinson's developmental theory. And unlike Erikson's, Levinson's developmental theory focuses primarily on adulthood instead of lifelong. It's just in adulthood. And his whole thing is that you have a dream or a goal or a future self, and it makes you change how you act to achieve that goal or actualize that future self. It's kind of the general idea of it. And I really identified with this concept because I had the great fortune of a couple of years ago getting to spend a good amount of time with this lady, which is Dr. Leslie Clark, who made a social work program called Project AIM. And she's a doctor at the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. And so what she does, she takes this project called AIM and works with middle schoolers and helps them build a more positive, goal-oriented future, helps them set goals and helps them identify steps that they can take to reach those goals. And so she studied a kind of meshing of these two ideas with the dreams and then the positive dreams that she's studying with middle schoolers, and found that she was able to reduce risky sexual behavior in middle schoolers by helping them set more positive lifelong goals. So that kind of gives a little legitimacy as to what they're both talking about. So she says that not only can you have dreams that affect your actions, she says they can be positive as well. So positive dreams, positive action, positive outcomes. Now we're going to think, are different dreams more positive? Like if you're a kid and you have a certain dream, is it going to be more effective in making you successful when you're in your middle ages at feeling like you've made a mark? So I came up with some research questions to test that. Here they are. I'm going to break them down a little bit because I wrote them and it takes me a while looking at them to figure out what I was talking about. So the first one is, do people who follow their dreams from young adulthood have more success navigating Erikson's 7th stage? And that's just if you had an idea of what you wanted to do as a kid and you stuck with it all the way through adulthood, are you more likely to feel generative during your middle ages? Or, like you made your mark with your life. The second one is, do people whose dreams from young adulthood involve a certain career have more success in navigating Erikson's stage? So if you're a kid and you're like, hey, I want to be an astronaut or whatever, not necessarily that you achieved the career, but that you had that idea, that you had something specific in mind as a child. Does that make you more successful when you're in the middle ages? The third one is a very similar question, except like the independent variable has changed, so it's family instead of career. So do people whose dreams from young adulthood involve having a family have more success in navigating Erickson's 7th stage? So that's if you had an idea that you wanted kids, you wanted to be a wife, or you wanted to be a husband, you wanted to have a family. Does that make you more successful when you're in the middle ages? Not necessarily that you followed it through and had a family, but that that's your idea. So I figured the best way to test this was to be a cross-sectional study. And everyone in our developmental psych class had to do a research presentation, whether it be a paper or a presentation. And we all worked together to make one questionnaire that answered all of that gave us the means to test our research questions. And it ended up being 78 questions long, and then we accosted 148 members of the general public with the questionnaire and forced them to answer it. And it had both nominal and scale questions on there, and that's like yes or no, or, you know, I feel kind of good about this, not so good about this, you know, kind of scale questions. And when I gave mine out, I focused on middle-aged people who were at the college from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. the first week of February. That's just when I had free time, and I wanted to study middle-aged people. So to test question 1, I did 2 correlation tests. And I found a significance when I did the first one of a negative correlation of 0.147 on the first one and a negative correlation of 0.001 on the second one. And that's not significant at all. Then question 2, I did another correlation and found a positive correlation of 0.036, which is also insignificant. Hope you see a trend here. Question 3, I did another correlation and I found a positive correlation of 0.117. Surprise, not significant. Okay, so on research question 1, we asked if people who followed their dreams from young adulthood have more success navigating Erickson's 7th stage. In order to measure this, I did a correlation test between a question that asked if they followed their dreams from young adulthood and then their age. So the logic behind this was to figure out if the people that I was studying followed their dreams as they got older, because we needed to know that before we went ahead to do anything. And it was insignificant again. And then I did a test that was, are they happier now than when they were younger and then their age? So the idea of both these is that if we found a positive correlation in both of them, that would mean they followed their dreams as they got older and they're happier. So then that would give us cause to look closer into maybe there's a real significant thing of following your dreams and making you happier as you got older. And the happier as you got older would mean you were more successful in Erickson's 7th stage. So, but they're both insignificant. So what can we get from that? Since this is testing primarily if your dreams from childhood were more successful, maybe more successful during Erickson's 7th stage by being constant, like you held them from childhood to adulthood. That's the main question this is asking. It means that you don't have to have one dream from when you're a child, or that's what it's implying, is that if you have something like you want to be an astronaut and it changes, it doesn't mean you're doomed to be less successful in Erickson's 7th stage. So plans change, and that's okay. In question 2, do people whose dreams from young adulthood involve a certain career have more success in navigating Erickson's 7th stage? The first correlation I did was asking if people were envious of other people, and then asking if they had a very specific career dream as a child. And so if someone was more envious, then they have decreased success in navigating Erickson's 7th stage, because that's one of the characteristics of stagnation, which is a negative characteristic of failing Erickson's 7th stage. So increased envious would be less success. So therefore, if the career dream, if there was a negative correlation there, it would say that the career dream, having a specific career dream as a child would increase your success in Erickson's 7th stage. However, it was not significant. But we can still get stuff from the results. This would be that, again, you don't have to carry it from childhood, your career dreams or aspirations, and they can change. But you don't even have to have a certain career. It can be, you don't have to know anything about what you want to do as far as a job as a child, or all the way up until you're actually being generative. It doesn't affect your success, their chances of success in Erickson's 7th stage. So no specific dreams, that's okay, no worries. In question 3, do people whose dreams from young adulthood involve having a family have more success in navigating Erickson's 7th stage? So I did a very similar format to the previous one, which was if you're more envious, then you're less successful in Erickson's 7th stage. And if having a dream of family at a young age decrease that enviousness, then you're more successful in Erickson's 7th stage. And so it was also insignificant. So if you didn't feel like you wanted a family when you were a kid, then it doesn't handicap you in being happy during your middle ages. And I found this result really surprising because the career thing I could see not really working out because, lots of our goals as children with career are unattainable. Like you don't really know what is available options for you. But for most people, you can have a family, you can make that happen. Most people can end up making that happen. So I thought, okay, well, they'll dream of that and they'll make it happen, and they'll be less envious of other people because they felt like they made a difference with their life through their family. But it wasn't the case, so good news for if you have no family plans. No worries. Alright, so my results didn't really line up with Levinson's dream theory or the results from the finding of AIM. However, I don't think they're contradictory. Levinson's dreams just says that, your future self defines your actions. The things they found in AIM, that those dreams can be positive and they make you more inclined to have positive action. Then my results imply malleability, and the specific dreams aren't as important as you may think, so that they can change throughout the course of your life. And what specific dreams, if you have huge dreams as a kid or you don't have huge dreams as a kid, it's not that important to how you're going to end up in your middle ages during 7th stage. I think this can be explained because of the fluidity of value that we ascribe to different things. And I think it's because with Levinson, AIM, and my test, they're all centered around planning for generativity in the 7th stage. So you're like making a roadmap for yourself of how you're going to become generative during your middle ages. And I think when you have a plan when you're a child and you're going throughout your life, the plan starts to fail, you realize it's not an attainable goal, then you're forced to change your value system of how you're going to be generative during your middle ages. And I don't think that changes the importance of the value system, but your value system changes. And also, it can work the other way around. Say, like, if you're a kid and you had a very specific career goal, you went and achieved the career goal, but you had, like, an unexpected child or something. You may find that having that child is more valuable to you than your previously ascribed value to your generative plan of a career. So I think they can change each other, and it kind of goes back and forth. And I think this is a place that, I think in this lies potential for future study. So for future research, I think there's this like teeter-totter value system that we talk about within ourselves that's at some point dreams become too much and we change our values. Or at some point something happens and our values change or our plans change. And I think there's a lot to be studied there as far as if there's certain events or goals or dreams, like in Levinson's theory, if there's certain dreams that come up throughout your life when you create them that kind of trump other plans of generativity. If one's potentially more important, or if there's a correlation with age or something. If you get older, do your ideas of generativity change? And then another thing is that if they change like that, do they get stronger every time you have to patch them up or change them? Or do they get more torn up? Like, does your generativity more likely to increase, like your chances, the more times you have to make a new plan? Like, when you take a knife and you're like building the knife, the more times that you fold it over and have to change it, the harder the steel gets. Or is it like pants, like, if you have to keep changing patches, they get kind of like worn out and not as effective at helping you reach the success in Erikson's 7th stage. Some of the limitations that I had were the amount and specificity of the dreams that I chose. I would like to try more dreams, like I just did career and family, and there's a bunch of different things that people have as kids that they want to achieve, and they may have different results. Because although my results implied that it doesn't matter what dream you have, I really only tested those 2 dreams. So my results actually more accurately say that the career and family dreams don't make you more inclined to be successful in Erikson's 7th stage, but they do show a trend. And then specificity, I'd like to try if they were certain careers, like if you wanted to be something that's attainable or not attainable, if that affects your success in Erikson's 7th stage, or if you wanted, like what part of the family, like if you wanted children, that was your main thing as a child, or if you wanted to be like a husband or wife, and they may be different results, so I'd like to try that. And then the questionnaire questions, since we all go together and make one questionnaire in our class, we only had like 4 or 5 questions that could be put on the survey without making it like hundreds and hundreds of questions long. And I feel like if I could ask more questions, then I could run more tests and would have more accurate results. So in summary, my research finding, if that aspect of Levinson's developmental theory had an effect on your success of Erikson's 7th stage, was insignificant. But through synthesis of Project AIM and Levinson's developmental theory, some other aspects of it, we came up with some really interesting thoughts on how we ascribe value to our experiences. Thank you. I appreciate it. And there's my email if you guys have any questions or anything like that.
Are there any questions?
Why did you choose this?
Like I said, with the Project AIM thing, I didn't really understand why Erikson didn't give us any advice, like I said. And then when I was reading about Levinson's theory in our book, it hit right at home with the stuff I've learned about with Dr. Clark and her whole AIM study. And I was like, oh, I completely can vibe with this. I understand a lot about this, so it makes sense for me to try to combine the 2 and see the effects. Yeah.
Why did you focus mainly on the 7th stage and middle-aged people?
Because Levinson's theory primarily focuses on adulthood, and the young adulthood wasn't as interesting to me, and later adulthood is just about looking back and seeing how you did through life, and I was like, okay, we can talk about that, but older adulthood to me, middle adulthood, you're still being active and you're still doing things, or at least it seems more involved with the community and with your dreams, and it just seems like a more kind of cantankerous thing to try to get involved with. It seemed like there was more moving parts that I could get in there and try to combine it with with Levinson's theory. Yes.
So I agree with you in terms of the number of items, especially I think that affects everyone. If you had more items, you could address your issue more. I also think that you had one of the more fully formed theories on what would happen, so it probably affected your theory more. You wouldn't like. So I wanted to ask you about that because you already addressed it. So I have a question more on the theoretical, and because you thought a lot about this, you connected it well. I'm wondering if you thought about, when you talk about the children with a dream about family or a dream about career, right? And then you look at generativity for somebody who's a middle adult, somebody who's in their 40s, 50s. Typically, when children talk about, I'm going to grow up to be your example of an astronaut, right? I'm going to grow up. For many children, that dream is very egocentric. Right, I'm going to be an astronaut, and then on the off season I'm going to play football, and then the off season I'm going to be a ballerina, and then, right, which is kind of different from generativity. So maybe, even with more specificity, maybe you still wouldn't find that strong of a link. Maybe you would have to find a thing in childhood that is comparable or corollary to adult generativity.
Okay.
Does that make sense? That
Yeah.
maybe what's going to happen is that egocentrism isn't going to be largely predictive of something that's a communal effect.
Hmm.
So you might, it's something you might think about. I don't know, I guess I'll turn my statement into a question. Have you thought about that?
No, because I went ahead and linked their, because if those things played out, because there are people who have those ideas, they do want to be an astronaut when they are, when they're a kid, and then they want to be an astronaut in adolescence, and then they're an astronaut in middle adulthood, and then they're generative, and that was their idea of generativity. That was kind of my thought process of like, it was mainly not that if you could follow it through and become generative with that idea, it was that if you had an idea like that, if you were able to conceptualize at a young age that there's things people do when they're older that are something that I'd like to do. That was the main. But that would be really cool to understand. I never thought about it like what their idea of generativity would be.
Any other questions?